join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Washington will lead us in our invocation, please.
Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Washington. Mr. Clark will call the roll call, please.
Mr. Tripp?
Present.
Mr. Washington?
Present.
Mr. Legess?
Present.
Mr. Stauffenberg?
Present.
Mr. Whitten?
Present.
Mrs. Bernard? Mr. Marcotte? Mr. James? Mr. McLaren? Mr. Vickery?
Present.
Mrs. Barber? Mrs. Schmidt?
Present.
Mr. Nicholas? Mr. Olthoff? Mr. Lear?
Present.
Mr. Scholl?
Present.
Mr. Hess?
Present.
Mrs. Campbell? Mr. Kalecki? Mrs. McBride?
Present.
Mr. Yates?
Present.
Mr. Inns?
Present.
Mr. Whitus? Mr. Tholen?
Present.
Mrs. Pope?
Present.
Mr. Arsenault?
Present.
Mr. McConnell? Mr. Bossert?
Present. We have a quorum. Under public commentary, I have one request. My switch is here now, right? I have one request to address the board, Mr. Runyon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, county board members. If you'll recall at last month's meeting, county board member Bernard brought up the real possibility that the proposed configuration of the Freddie Barbara landfill could pose bird strike problems. There were people in the audience who chortled at that suggestion. I would like to refer those people to airsafe.com to just get a summary of the number of airstrikes that take place every year and the damage. Damage is estimated at over $600 million a year to aircraft from bird strikes. And prior to Flight 1549, there was another bird strike at LaGuardia back in the early 80s. The source of the birds was a landfill, and some 34 people were killed in that bird strike. More recently, the FAA has been enforcing its circular prohibiting landfills within a certain distance of the end of a runway. Just last fall in October, the FAA stopped a landfill in Marion, Illinois, because it was within the 6-mile circular limit imposed by the FAA. As you're aware, the Barbara landfill can only be constructed, assuming it is not denied by the Supreme Court, by building a humongous retention pond, which makes the landfill a feeder, and with watering from the retention pond is an obvious haven for vulture birds and so on, and a definite threat to airstrikes for that airport, being within 2 miles of the end of that runway. I would suggest, Mr. Chairman, that you address the appropriate committee on the board to explore the possibility of having the county board petition the FAA to stop that landfill because of the potential hazards to bird strikes. People of power would be very willing to help the appropriate committee because we've done a lot of research in that area. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Runyon. I have no communications, I have no vacancy appointments today. We have a number of recognition for service, certificates of recognition. Maybe from here, Debbie Woodruff with the Auditor's Office, our department head. Is Debbie in the room? Okay. Ray Fairfield with the Maintenance Department has a 5-year certificate. Sherry Jones with the Sheriff's Department has a 5-year certificate. Dennis Burmester with the Circuit Court has a 5-year recognition. Monica Herod with the Health Department has a 5-year recognition. Linda McKay, 5 years with the Health Department. And finally, Bob LaLuna has a 15-year recognition with Highway. So I want to thank all our employees for their continued service. Minutes of the last meeting have been distributed. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes as were distributed? Mr. Whitten.
Thank you, Chairman. I have a question on the minutes last. State's Attorney Boyd announced that House Bill 262 involving death penalty was being worked on, and we never heard nothing back on that. And he also said House Bill 329, which would be the redistricting of the county districts. We haven't heard nothing on that.
Well, we're approving the minutes. If there's discussion later about specific provisions that were in the minutes, we'll discuss that later. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented? So Mr. Washington with a motion. Mr. Vickery with a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Claims Committee report.
February 24, 2009, Mr. Chairman and members of the County Board, your Committee on County Claims have begged leave to report they've examined the following claims presented, recommend payment, clerk is hereby authorized and directed to issue orders to the several claimants payable out of the fund as follows. For the general fund, $2,322,043.07. All other funds, $3,027,292.92 for a total of the month of February 2009 of $5,349,335.99. For the highway fund, $83,358.58. All of the funds, $456,631.14 for a total of the month of $539,989.72. All of which is effectively submitted by Mr. Vickery, Mr. Gleckie, Ms. Garber, Ms. Pope, Mr. Smith, Mr. Campbell, Mr. Scholl, Mr. Jess, Mr. Stopper, Mr. Washington, Mr. James, Mr. Bossert, Mr. Arsenault, and Mr. Yates.
I have a motion to approve the Claims Committee report. Mr. Stauffenberg with a motion, Mr. Washington with a second. Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Tripp?
Aye.
Mr. Washington?
Aye.
Mr. LaJess?
Aye.
Mr. Stauffenberg?
Aye.
Mr. Whitten?
Aye.
Mrs. Bernard?
Aye.
Mr. Vickery?
Aye.
Mrs. Barber? Mrs. Schmidt?
Aye.
Mr. Lear?
Aye.
Mr. Scholl?
Aye.
Mr. Hess?
Aye.
Mrs. McBride?
Aye.
Mr. Yates?
Aye.
Mr. Inns?
Aye.
Mr. Whitus? Mr. Solon? Mr. Pope? Mr. Arsenault?
Aye.
Mr. Bosser?
Aye.
Mr. Nicholas?
I can't remember that. Aye.
Motion carries. Department reports?
The County Collector's Monthly Report, we've examined the January 2009 monthly report of the County Treasurer and ex officio County Collector, and to the best of our knowledge, find it to be true and correct. We've examined the January 2009 monthly report of the County Treasurer and ex officio County Collector, and to the best of our knowledge, find it to be true and correct. The coroner's report for January 2009, there were 30 coroner cases, 76 medical, 7 autopsies, 7 toxicology, 2 outside autopsies, 19 natural deaths, 4 accidentals. The coroner's report of income for a total of $2,418. The circuit clerk's report for the month of January. Collections of $298,903.98. Recorder of Deeds report for January 2009 of $90,535.25. County Clerk's report for the month of January 2009 of fees of $17,670.21. The Animal Control report for the month of January 2009 of $19,667.49, $74.78 for the building fund. The permit report for February 2009, there were 34 permits of $5,914, total of 7 fines for $1,726. And we have on file the county monthly resolution with the trustee.
Do I have a motion to approve the department reports? Mr. Vickery with a motion. Do I have a second? Mr. Whitus with a second. Discussion? Voice vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Committee presentations under our consent agenda. We only have 2 items under the consent agenda. They are both highway issues. Award of bids on some sign purchases and a Pilot Township Rural District section. Are there any questions about those items on the consent agenda? Any questions? We have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Mr. Enns with a motion. Mr. Scholl with a second. Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Tripp?
Aye.
Mr. Washington?
Aye.
Mr. Legess? Mr. Stauffenberg? Mr. Whitten? Mrs. Bernard? Mr. Vickery?
Aye.
Mrs. Barber?
Aye.
Mrs. Schmidt?
Aye.
Mr. Nicholas?
Aye.
Mr. Lear?
Aye.
Mr. Scholl?
Aye.
Mr. Hess?
Aye.
Mrs. McBride?
Aye.
Mr. Yates?
Aye.
Mr. Enns?
Aye.
Mr. Whitus? Mr. Solon? Mrs. Pope? Mr. Arsenault?
Aye.
Mr. Bosser?
Aye.
Mr. Flecky?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Under Planning, Zoning, and Agriculture, we have for presentation, ZBA case 0901, wind energy conversion system. This is an application for a special use in an agricultural district. I might explain that I invited representatives of Vision Energy to give a short presentation for the benefit of a number of board members who probably had not seen or heard the detailed discussion on this project. So, Mr. Van Mill, I'll let you do the introduction.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, everyone. The Planning Department will defer its normal presentation, and we will introduce Turner Hunt, Jeff Harris of Vision Energy, and Mark Gershon, who is the legal counsel for the application, and they'll come forward and give a brief overview of the project.
Morning.
Again, we're very pleased to be here. As many of you know, this is part of now a more than 2-year process that we have been doing with this county and with other counties, working towards a project that we're really very excited about. And has really had a long history, quite honestly, in the county. We, as many of you know, we like to talk about the fact that wind farms are nothing new. Wind farms have been part of agriculture, for more than 100 years, for lots of different purposes. But more recently, in 2008, you as a county board approved the standards for a wind energy conversion system, which was to provide for those as a special use in the agricultural district. And as part of our project, we submitted to you a large binder that I know you've all seen, and that was specifically designed to ensure that we satisfy each of the criteria that you've established for approval of a wind energy conversion system. And obviously you're very familiar with the standards of special use. I won't go through each of them, but we're very pleased that in addition to unanimous approvals in both Iroquois and Ford counties, your zoning board of appeals we went through with each of the special use conditions, and they have gone through each of those and recommended approval based on the project. Again, a unanimous recommendation of approval. Well, let's step back for a second. Wind isn't just something that's happening in Kankakee County. Wind energy is something that's happening all over the country and all over the world. In fact, many different organizations are behind this. One of the largest group called 25 by 25 is an alliance of governmental and non-governmental entities, all working towards bringing clean, renewable energy to the United States. And their vision is to create 25% of the power that we use out of renewable energy. And the reason for that, we'll talk about a little more in our presentation, but deals with the fact that not only does it provide an alternative source of income for agriculture, not only does it support agriculture, but the practical answer is it addresses a lot of the pollution issues, a lot of our reliance on foreign energy, on typical burning of coal and other processes, and again, it's renewable, which is critical in terms of addressing our long-term energy needs. While 25 by 25 is a great idea, Illinois has taken that one step further. Illinois has made it the law. So Illinois passed the State Renewable Portfolio Standard in August of 2007, which says that, again, by the year 2025, they want to see 25% of all energy, of all electric energy coming from renewable sources. They took it a step farther. Of that 25%, 75% they want to see coming from wind. And again, that's because of all the sources of renewable energy, wind is seen as one of the best in terms of creating clean energy, creating forms of renewable energy without adverse impact on the environment, etc. But also at the same time supporting an incredibly important resource in Illinois, our agricultural community. And so it really hits both of those issues. Give you some sense of what's going on in the United States. This is actually a map from 2007. And it's interesting to see how much this has changed. Back in 2007, we had what was an impressive number back then, approximately almost 17,000 megawatts of wind energy across the United States. Today, that number, including both existing and under construction, is almost 30,000 megawatts. And it continues to grow. Same in Illinois, about 700 megawatts at the time under construction, in place. Today, there's 915 megawatts in place. So this is something happening across the country, something that you are a part of by reviewing and approving a WEX ordinance. You're part of a movement that's happening all over agricultural areas in the United States for all the reasons we've discussed. So, why wind energy? Again, it's free and inexhaustible. We laugh sometimes when we say it's free. Obviously, it costs a lot of money, a lot of investment to create a wind farm, but once it's up, your energy source is free. That wind coming in is going to be there. It's inexhaustible. We know from our studies, from having put up Met towers in your area, what everyone here already knows, that we will have an inexhaustible source of wind here. At the same time, it's competitive with fossil fuel power plants. without the obvious adverse environmental impacts you see from those. We talked a lot about supporting agricultural rural areas. That's from a lot of different things that we'll talk about today. Not only the fact that we generate significant dollars to the property owners who are part of the wind farm, create a second, essentially a second agricultural crop for them that offsets some of the issues and volatility in normal agricultural crops, but also because of the significant tax revenues that we'll talk about, which benefit therefore not only those property owners, but their neighbors and the entire community. Does not pollute air or water, as we talked, to hedge against volatile fossil fuel prices. You know, one of those issues that a couple years ago when I did wind farms, you had to explain to people that fossil fuel prices and oil can go up and down. We don't really have to have that discussion anymore. I think people have really seen how much that can impact. And we think importantly, it's a domestically produced project. It's not dependent on foreign regimes. We put together a project team from around the country and from local people to look at your ordinance, to look at our project, and to ensure that it satisfies not only all of your local requirements, but all the state and federal requirements as well. That included biological screening reports, avian wildlife reviews, wetland delineation reports, a noise analysis by the gentleman who for 25 or 28 years was the actual head for the IEPA of enforcement, the archaeological site literature review, the real estate market analysis that looked at numerous wind farms across the country, talked to governmental officials, talked to the appraisers, the assessors in those counties, the government officials to ensure there had been no adverse impact. And it also worked obviously with our construction people to look at your project. All of this aimed at ensuring that not only do we meet your requirements, but that this is a project that we can be proud of, that we know will work with you. One of the things we're very proud of is that at our public hearing for the zoning board, we had both a governmental official from Benton County, where Vision has a wind project, and also the chairman of the board from Stark County, where we have another wind project we're involved in, who came to explain that not only can we put on great presentations, not only can we address your issues, but once we're up and running, they're very pleased by us being good neighbors, and he wanted to come here to show you that. Practical answer is, we work on a long-term basis, and our hope is that the next time we're out there, you're going to be so happy with what we do that you're going to be the ones coming up to the next county to tell them how pleased you were that we came into their community. At this point, I'd like to ask Turner Hunt to come up with Vision Energy. We'll talk a little bit more about the details of the project.
Good morning. I'm Turner Hunt. I'm with Vision Energy, and I'm going to talk briefly about 10 minutes. I'll go through some of the slides, the same introduction that we gave last week and then earlier a month ago out at the Herscher Legions Hall. Vision Energy is not a stranger to Illinois. In fact, we are one of the co-developers and an owner of the Camp Grove Wind Farm in Stark and Marshall counties. That wind farm went operational at the end of '06 and has been operating now about a year and a half. A little bit closer, although in another state just across the border in Benton County, Indiana, 130 megawatt wind farm, so there's 87 wind turbines that sit over there. That wind farm now been operational about 8 months. We just wanted to talk a bit about why we are here. There's three main reasons. Number one, there is a predominant geographical feature in this area many of you are familiar with. It provides a little bit extra wind speed. It allows us to have that extra amount of fuel that makes everything sort of fall into piece together to make the wind farm come together. There's transmission nearby. So secondly, there's transmission. We need a place to plug in our electricity and deliver it to the utility grid. In this case, there is a large transmission line near the railroad track on Kensington. Also on the western end of the wind farm, which does in fact stretch a bit into Livingston County, there is a second interconnection point there. So there is a place for us to plug in. And thirdly, I should say, land. There's plenty of land, but not only that, there are landowners who are excited as we are about bringing this wind farm to the four-county area. And they have voluntarily agreed to allow to have a wind farm developed on their property and wind turbines located within the county. Just a quick rundown of some of the benefits. We've got the board over here, which you can continue to look at. But Mark talked briefly about diversifying income, preserving farmland, a new source of revenue for the taxing bodies, construction jobs which last quite a lengthy period, from 10 to 12 months, and can range anywhere from a sort of an average of about 150 folks on site at one time to a maximum of about 250. During the operation of the wind farm, about 20 to 30 full-time, mostly maintenance jobs that are associated with the wind farm. And Mark also talked a bit about clean renewable energy and the benefits and the less reliance on fossil fuel. The tax revenue, the estimated tax revenue, is based upon 88 wind turbines in Kankakee County, 47 of them in Pilot, 41 of them in Otto. There is a state law that was passed about 18 months ago, a uniform taxation or assessment guideline that lays out a pretty specific formula in terms of how to calculate those amounts. And we've simply applied that formula and come up with two columns here. One is a 1.5 megawatt turbine, which is sort of about the industry standard. 2.5 is a little bit larger, a larger turbine that we could contemplate actually placing in the two township area. We think the revenue obviously is substantial, it's meaningful, it's long-term. I'll talk a bit about the economics of a wind farm, and maybe I should just sort of stick with that for the moment. Two of our most important economic ingredients of the wind farm are fixed in general. The price of the fuel, not free. There's a lot to obviously install on the ground to be able to cultivate or to harvest that fuel, but in general we have price certainty well out into the future. Second, the pricing of our product or our electricity is also a very well-known quantity, and in many cases we'll be able to enter into a 20-year agreement with a power purchaser such as a utility, and we can fix the price well out into the future. So it tends to make a wind farm stable over a very long period of time. So just the project overview, I mentioned the 41 towers in Otto and the 47 in Pilot. Quite a substantial investment, power generation is a very capital intensive business and would be a several $100 million investment. Many landowners, as I spoke about, and obviously an offset for greenhouse gas emissions. The tower itself, so if you haven't seen a wind farm or been near a wind turbine, they're fairly large. The hub sits at about, in our case, 265 feet. There's an electrical line that comes down from the generator that sits at the top. All of that electricity is gathered at a central point of the wind farm, which is the substation, and typically you'll have an operation and maintenance building that sits nearby. And in that case, we've got that, I think, almost on the, I'll show you the site plan here in a little bit. We'll see that area right near the Iroquois border. There is 2 permanent meteorological towers associated with the wind farm, and that collects and analyzes the wind data during the operation of the wind farm. This is a little bit small, but nonetheless, it is the site plan. 88 wind turbines you can see. Of course, Pilot on the left, Otto on the right. There's the town of Herscher up towards the northwest area. This is 57 over to your right. Towards the Iroquois border, you'll see that I just spoke of the substation and the operation and maintenance building area. Everything in pink there are participating landowners, and those in white are areas that are not participating. If you could match this up with the topographical map I showed earlier, you'll see that most of these properties are all essentially up on top of this hill, this ridge area. There are many setbacks in the WEX ordinance, and we went through those last week, and I'm just going to jump through those at the moment. I'm going to jump through the construction as well. The transportation agreement, which is a very important part of our development, has a sort of a single guiding premise, and that is if we break it, we fix it. And we're not only do we have an agreement there, but we've also got a bond in place, which so we're not just asking you to trust us on that. There is security in place. This is an agreement that covers all of which roads we can use, which roads we cannot use, how we bring the traffic in, how we get to a certain turbine, and it's very specific, and it helps, it specifies improvements that we'll need to make prior to the start of construction. It's my understanding that the Road and Bridges Committee has this document and will be, I think, voting on it in the coming weeks, and we believe making a recommendation to the county board to approve that. During operation, I mentioned the jobs, and this is just some pictures of some of the folks who are actually servicing some of the turbines. There is a decommissioning plan that's also associated with the wind farm, and again, a bond here is associated with that decommissioning plan. Single premise in this document: when you're done, take it down, remove it to 4 feet, so get the jackhammer out and take some of that concrete out as well. The duration of a wind farm is typically, well, the equipment has about a 20 to 25 year lifetime. At that point, you can take out the old stuff, perhaps put in some new stuff, more efficient. The technology has greatly improved. Depending on what the other forces are in the market in terms of power generation, it's possible that you may actually remove it, in this case, decommission it, and this is what this document is all about. During our presentation, we went through quite an environmental analysis. I'm not going to touch on all of those, just to say, but there were quite a lengthy a dialogue about avian and wildlife. There's wetlands delineation, archaeological review, a noise analysis by the former Illinois EPA gentleman, and a communications and microwave analysis. So I'm going to jump through those slides. This is the real estate valuation done by an appraiser who had quite a lengthy document that went into many wind farms, not only in Illinois, the existing wind farms in Illinois, but all over the country, and showed no negative effect to neighboring property values. Okay, so that's what ends my portion. I'm going to hand it back over to Mark.
So again, all this is aimed towards meeting your requirements, not only your WEX ordinance, but also your special use standards, and going through each of those. And I think not only showing from our standpoint, not only as your requirements are that there's no adverse impact, but from our standpoint going far beyond that and showing the incredible benefits of the project. So to give you a sense, again, 2 years of working with local officials, local property owners. We've had a great relationship working with your staff, who have spent a lot of time at the various hearings, at our open houses. I guess I should have mentioned, we held 2 open houses, I believe more than 1,000 people invited to those, just to make sure that as we went through the process, members of your community, members of the other communities involved, could all have an opportunity to come and ask us questions. It's been, from our standpoint, a very beneficial process because it allows us to give people a real sense of what the project is and to respond to their questions. The result of 250 agreements with the local landowners. Turner said this, I think it's very important to know. We're not a public utility. Therefore, every single property owner who participates in this did so completely voluntarily. This is their choice. They made a decision that they wanted to be a part of the project. Clearly, one of the benefits of that is $50 million in expected payments, $15 million in Kankakee. As we commented, as you saw from the state analysis of wind farms, the practical answer is people see wind farms as a great way to do what your comprehensive plan says, a great way of preserving agriculture, providing an additional source of income to agriculture. Again, a large capital investment, as you can see from our benefit report for the taxes up here. An estimate based on the state requirements of approximately $19.4 to $32.3 million in overall tax revenues over the initial 25 year of the project. Obviously, if we repower, et cetera, there's even more dollars coming in. But that's sort of the initial estimate. Jobs, operation, maintenance jobs, benefits for existing local businesses. And again, we like to come back to it because it's important. It's clean, renewable energy. Doesn't impact the environment. We all need electricity. We all use it. Critically important that we find ways to generate that don't adversely impact all of us. I always like to close by saying that you hear enough from us. We think the best way to close on this is for you to hear from other people. Dan McGuire, the American Corn Growers Foundation CEO, said that wind energy is an invaluable economic asset to the overall agricultural industry, and specifically the farming sector, by diversifying the income of farmers, ranchers, and other landowners as well as generating tax revenues for local governments. Going a little more local, David Benson is a farmer and a county commissioner in Nobles County, Minnesota. Wind is a homegrown energy that we can harvest right alongside our corn or soybeans or other crops. We couldn't say any better ourselves. Again, we appreciate not only your investigation of this, your time and your review, but the review of your staff, the review of numerous people from your community, and we recommend or request approval of the project. Thank you, and we're happy to respond to any questions you have.
Yes, board members, if you have any questions, I would ask Turner, maybe if you'd want to come back up, if there's any questions you need to field, I'm available to do so. Let's get a motion on the table first, a motion to approve the resolution. Mr. Washington with a motion, Mr. Arsenault with a second. Okay, discussion, questions, Mr. Enns, I think you were the first.
Yeah, I just got a couple questions.
Microphone, please. Grab the mic.
My understanding, this is compatible with the current grid, right?
I'm sorry, say again?
It's compatible with current electric grid, or not?
Correct.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. And the people that you're gonna hire, are they gonna be local people? Do you have any provisions for hiring some minorities?
What I can answer from our experience in nearby communities and over here in Kansas, 80% of the workforce is within 20 to 40 miles of where the wind farm is being built. There are specialized folks, crane operators, other folks that are very specific to wind that may come from across the country in various different places. There are all the requirements that you'd expect of a large employer in the area, which includes minority provisions and other items like that.
Questions?
It's gonna be union jobs you're aware of?
I'll go back to our experience in Camp Grove, 95% it was. Indiana, a bit different place, a little bit lower percentage, but by and large, I think that's about right.
Mr. Scholl?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You mentioned that 25 years, revenue over a 25-year period, 19.4 to 32 million. Is that something that school districts and townships can count on, that this would be a source of revenue for 25 years, or is there some clause that this won't go out for 25 years?
Obviously, assuming that the wind farm runs the whole 25 years, which we're making a huge investment on that expectation, the state has established a standard that identifies what the initial value is, it identifies how that gets addressed in taxes over years. Even when that standard is gone, wind farms in Illinois have always been taxed. We would assume, as a owner of a large investment in your community, that yes, those tax revenues would continue on over that entire period. And again, we only estimate 25 years. We actually estimated that quite conservatively. We froze the tax revenues. We looked at it, tried to do very conservative numbers. It could easily be more than that. It could easily be much longer than 25 years. They're putting a lot of money and investment into this. I don't think anyone expects that wind turbine technology will do anything other than being improved year to year. A lot of money going into it. Therefore, the clear expectation of someone who's making this kind of investment is that when the useful life of this nacelle comes up, we have 50-year agreements with our property owners for exactly the reason that we expect to continue that project on.
I might respond in part as well, Mr. Scholl. A question was raised at the Planning and Zoning Committee last week as to the continuity of the legislation that dictates how wind turbines are taxed. Concern was raised that perhaps that would change, or even the legislation may expire in a year or two. There's been some discussion with Vision Energy that we can, I think we are satisfied that we can reach some understanding on how that taxation may continue. Furthermore, we've had some discussion with our legislators as to what action will happen in terms of that legislation, and again, I'm getting assurance that the intent is to renew the existing statute and continue on with the current structure. So on that count, I guess we can feel satisfied that we'll have some continuity on that taxation issue.
Mr. Chairman, the state's attorney's office is recommending that an amendment be made to the resolution stating that the special use permit be contingent upon reaching a tax revenue agreement between the county and Vision Energy. I need a motion for the floor.
Let me get that written down. Want to restate that, Mr. McElroy?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. That the special use permit be contingent upon reaching a tax revenue agreement between the county and Vision Energy. It'll be item number 4.
Or it'd be the last provision on the resolution. Would I have a motion to amend the resolution with the provision as stated? Please, Mr. Scholl with a motion, Mr. Tripp with a second. Discussion on that amendment. Mrs. Bernard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Have all the other counties done the same thing?
I don't know that. I know that the problem that we see with it is that the state legislation has a sunset provision that ends in 2011. So after that point, the state could take all the tax money unless we reach an agreement. And the local entities would be left with nothing, could be left with nothing.
So would the state, so our requirement would supersede any changes in the state law?
There'll be an agreement between us and Vision Energy, a contractual agreement.
May I ask the people here from Vision Energy if they've got any similar provisions with their other contracts or agreements? Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Do you have similar provisions?
No, we do not. Again, we recognize it's a different way of looking at it. There are certainly some levels of comfort of trying to establish that in the beginning. What it also does, however, is frees you on on the upside as well. But no, the other counties have not had that requirement.
Thank you.
Further discussion on the motion for the amendment. Mr. Arsenault.
I think this is a win-win situation for the county. I think this is a win situation for the school district, for the townships, for the jobs that this is going to bring in, even in the peak when it's going to be going up. I think it's going to be a win situation for the maintenance jobs that they're going to be bringing in. I do go forward too on this to approve this vote with contingency to have it approved by the state's attorney, because I think this is a fantastic idea to bring this wind energy to Kankakee County. And I would just like to get this approved right now.
Any other comments on the amendment? Mr. Yates.
Thank you, Chairman. Gentlemen, I'm curious, and I won't get too technical, but I'm just curious, given the height of these turbines, how high up above the top of the turbines do they displace wind? And I raise that question with thoughts about not too far to the east we have anyway, and this has no impact on you all whatsoever. I understand your entity is separate from what we as a county also are dealing with.
Mr. Yates, could I interrupt? Let's keep the discussion on point, which would be just strictly the amendment with before us. And then we'll come back to your question.
Roger that.
Thank you. Any other comments on the question before us? All in favor of the amendment to the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
Nay.
Motion carries.
I don't know that a roll call vote is
I think
necessary.
that's necessary.
If you're asking for one, Mr. Tripp.
Are you asking for? Motion carries. Okay, back to the original motion, consideration of the resolution to approve the special use permit. Mr. Yates, go ahead and restate your question.
I'm just curious, how high above the top of your turbines are you displacing wind?
The tip height can go to 400 feet.
400 feet? And I raise that question, no reference to impact on you all, but as a county, we need to be just conscious at a minimum of the fact that to immediate east, not too far anyway, east of that, we're proposing there's discussion of a landfill that we've thus far been fighting, and we continue. But then immediately east of that, we're talking about an enhanced airport project. So something to consider and think about.
don't know if you want to respond to the airport question. I know the FAA is involved in approval of, what, 2 or 3 of your turbine sites.
But in fact, the FAA actually approves all the sites. And we have 2 or 3 where we're discussing with them. Let me go to the first part of the question. Just so you know, when we talk about wind displacement, the reason why you see on our site plan that we cover a large area is that you typically look at, I think it's about 60 acres surrounding a wind turbine as the area where you're concerned about wind displacement. So therefore, I don't actually know the location of the potential landfill site, but we have the property surrounding us that would be impacted. So I don't think it would be an issue for the landfill site. And again, the FAA reviews every single one of our turbines and has to sign off that there's no hazard air navigation for each one.
Thank you, Jim.
Mr. Washington.
I've seen cutouts and diagrams of how your base is constructed. But are there periodic checks, like sonic checks, to determine if there's any fractures or anything in that base?
There is an annual maintenance that goes on every year. The structural integrity of the foundation, I don't know if it's a sonic device that does that, but there is a procedure by which all of the bases are reviewed.
Continuity.
Yeah. There's also, I should say, sensors, vibration sensors that sit up in the nacelle, and so if there's any movement of any type, because even though, and I've actually been up on top of the thing and you can sort of feel it just a tad as the wind's blowing, the sensors are reporting all that kind of information back to the main facility, so it's under sort of review at all the time, so that data is coming in.
Thank you.
I have a question. I've been trying to equate the size of this wind farm in terms of megawatt capacity and relate that to a nuclear plant, a Braidwood or a LaSalle station. Your wind farm is going to be in the range of 450 to 600 megawatts likely in total at this point, 300 turbines at stated capacity. What's the size of a Braidwood or a LaSalle, or how would you relate to
No, Braidwood or LaSalle or a typical nuclear may be a gigawatt, which is 1,000 megawatts. Some go as much as 2,000 megawatts. Our wind farm on a 25-mile-an-hour day will output 500 megawatts or something. Now, this is in the 4-county area. And so about half of a typical nuclear plant's output. But I would caution and say that the wind's not always blowing at 25. So our average annual output is more like perhaps 250, maybe 200 to 250. So if you equate it on that basis, maybe 1/5 in terms of the output of Braidwood or something like that.
Okay. That helps visualize a bit of what we're discussing in terms of replacing nuclear and that type. Any other questions? Mrs. Bernard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I just have a comment, if I may. 20-something years ago, Kankakee County, or Kankakee, was the buckle on the Rust Belt. People were saying the last ones to leave Kankakee, please turn out the lights. Since then, we've seen a lot of manufacturing, industrial jobs that have been outsourced to Mexico, China, and other third world nations. We've seen it dismantled here in this country, and I am really pleased to see this wind farm going forward, because I think our future lies in green jobs and sustainable jobs. And the one thing that we have at a great advantage in the 21st century is that Kankakee County is so well positioned for sustainable growth, because not only do we have the wind resources, but we have the water resources, because water is going to be the oil of the 21st century. So I think this is a wonderful development, and I hope all my fellow board members support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Scholl.
I'd just like to ask a question, for some reason it just popped in my mind. If once the wind farm is established, if I'm a private property owner, is there anything in the agreements that exist, that are signed with property owners, that they cannot put up a personal wind device?
In our wind energy easement agreement, as it's called, and there is a short form of it that's recorded in the courthouse, we have one of the provisions in there is called a non-interference, and so we are basically buying the landowner's wind, and we ask them not to interfere with it or alter its flow. So they can put up a small personal wind turbine of maybe 20 or 30 feet. If they want to go up into the 200 or 300 area, then that would then conflict with provisions of the document. So something small is certainly reasonable, yes.
Thank you. Other questions? Board members?
Call for the question.
Are we ready for the question? Would you prefer a roll call vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Let's have a roll call vote, please. The question before us is approval of the special use permit as stated in our resolution.
Mr. Tripp?
Aye.
Mr. Washington?
Aye.
Mr. Legess? Aye. Mr. Stauffenberg?
Aye.
Mr. Whitten?
Aye.
Mrs. Bernard?
Aye.
Mrs. Barber?
Aye.
Mr. Nicholas?
Aye.
Mr. Lear? Aye. Mr. Scholl?
Aye.
Mr. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Colecki? Aye. Mrs. Bride? Mr. Yates?
Aye.
Mr. Innes?
Aye.
Mr. Whitus? Mr. Boland?
Aye.
Mrs. Pope? Mr. Arsenault?
Aye.
Mr. Bosser?
Aye.
Mr. Vickery, aye.
Mr. Vickery.
Double duty there.
It's not personalized.
Did we get everybody? Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Welcome to the county.
Thank you very much.
Moving on. From the Finance Committee, a resolution authorizing Judge Elliott to enter into a lease agreement with the ETPM LLC for a rental of office space for the Public Defender's Office. This discussion has revolved between the Criminal Justice Committee and Finance for a couple of months. So the resolution is before you. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution as presented? Mr. Enns with a motion, Mr. Hess with a second. Discussion, questions? Mr. Whitten.
Thank you, Chairman. I voted for this in committee, but I have a question. It says, the collection of the public defender's fees. Will his fees go up in order to pay this rent?
I'm sorry,
All right.
I'm sorry, Mr.
It says the rent will be paid by the collection of public defender's fees. Does that mean any fees that he charges, he can raise the fees in order to make his rent payment? Or does he have enough money to make that rent payment?
I'll let Mr. Glazer explain the public defender fee structure. It appears that that's a court-ordered payment that has some discretion in terms of the amounts that can be levied on a public defender customer. But Mr. Glazer, go ahead.
The public defender fees are assessed by the court upon motion of the state's attorney's office or the court's own motion, not on our motion. The court will inquire to us as to what an appropriate fee would be, and that would be determined by the amount of time spent on the case and the amount of money that that particular person has. If a person is 100% broke, the court is not going to assess a public defender fee. This is kind of a middle area where a person has some money to the point where they shouldn't be entitled to free services, but they don't have enough money to hire a lawyer in the private market. So it's completely determined by the court, but based on the court's representations, they have been assessing them on a regular basis the past few months, and we believe there'll be enough money coming in to
It's
pay for the
already a
rent.
set fee.
Any other questions? A little housekeeping, perhaps a motion to waive the reading of the resolution would be in order. Mr. Washington with a motion, Mr. Colecki with a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, original motion to approve the resolution to enter into the lease agreement. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say, yeah, we're spending money. Okay, roll call.
Mr. Tripp? Aye. Mr. Washington?
Aye.
Mr. Legess? Aye. Mr. Stauffenberg?
Aye.
Mr. Whitten? Mrs. Bernard?
Aye.
Mr. Vickery?
Aye.
Mrs. Barber? Mrs. Schmidt? Mr. Nicholas?
Aye.
Mr. Lear?
Aye.
Mr. Scholl?
Aye.
Mr. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Colecki? Aye. Mrs. McBride? Mr. Yates?
Aye.
Mr. Ennis?
Aye.
Mr. Whitus? Aye. Mr. Solly? Aye. Mrs. Pope? Mr. Arsenault?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you. Second, under finance, a resolution authorizing the finance department to report on and oversee offline accounts. Again, perhaps a motion to waive the reading of the resolution. Mr. Washington with a motion, Mr. Vicker with a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Do we have a motion to adopt said resolution? Mr. Scholl with a motion, Mr. Washington with a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Okay. Under new business, we have a couple of items. These are coming directly from the chair. Resolution authorizing Kankakee County to purchase real estate from Zina S. Ward. You have the resolution before you. Perhaps in this case, we'll have Mr. Clark read this one into the record.
Resolution of the County Board of Kankakee County, Illinois. Whereas said property to be purchased is commonly described as 139 East Court Street, Kankakee, Illinois, legally described as County Clerk Subdivision, Lot 12, Block 10, 32, 31, 12 East, and 147 East Court Street, Kankakee, Illinois, legally described as County Clerk Subdivision, Lot 13, except the north 10 feet of Block 10, 32, 31, 12 East, whereas said property commonly described as 139 East Court Street and 147 East Court Street, Kankakee, Illinois, is being offered for sale by the property owner, Zina S. Ward, and whereas the county would benefit from owning the aforesaid property in order to improve handicap accessible parking for the general public and county employees. Now therefore be it resolved that the county board chairman be authorized to execute a real estate purchase contract and pertinent closing documents for the property commonly described as 139 East Court Street and 147 East Court Street, Kankakee, Illinois, at a purchase price $140,000.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve? Mr. Hess with a motion, Mr. Colecki with a second. Discussion, I'll lead off by explanation. The situation arose since the last full board meeting. I think on perhaps a week after the last board meeting, it became evident that the property next door to this building, and this to be across the alley, was for sale. At the February 19th Operation Development Committee, in closed session, board members discussed the wisdom or the appropriateness of buying that property. There was good consensus to move ahead and make an offer for a variety of reasons. That property has been basically abandoned now for some time, obviously as an eyesore and perhaps a safety hazard. Number two, we have a severe parking problem, particularly with our handicap situation around this building, not only for the public but our employees. So in light of those circumstances, and if a reasonable purchase price could be arrived at, it seemed reasonable to proceed with a purchase. In the course of negotiating, a purchase price of $140,000 was arrived at, which seemed to be a reasonable number. So on behalf of the board, we negotiated that agreement, but could not sign anything until I had authorization from this board. So that's what this matter is about, is to get authority. So discussion, questions, Mrs. Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I gave Bob a copy of an old plan that the downtown did a long time ago. This was on the plan a long time ago to turn those into handicap parking spaces and tear that building down. So I just thought I'd bring that in so you could use it as a visual.
Yes, it does fit into the plan. Any other questions? Mr. Witt?
Thank you, Chairman. 3 strikes and I'm out, so it's my 3rd time. What are we doing about the lots across the street from the courthouse? We tore buildings down there, we never made a blacktop, we never put a parking lot in there. What are we going to do here? We're going to tear this building down and leave it set? Or are we going to make a parking lot? We should put some money in them lots down along the courthouse on Harrison Avenue before we tear another building down.
Well, I don't disagree. We need to move ahead with those lots. Of course, it just takes money. And, but when this opportunity comes up next door, I don't think we pass it up. I think we move ahead.
Use the money for lots down there?
Well, if we pass up this chance, we may not get another chance. I guess it'd be my comment. Mr. Washington or Mr. Stockton.
I was just curious, do we have an estimate of what it's gonna cost to tear it down?
Not a hard number. I've heard $10,000 might do it.
That's reasonable.
The city pointed out the landfill cost would be substantial. Pointed comment. Any other questions? Mrs. Bernard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can we ask the city if they could look at taking some of that material for recycling? I think that's what they do with the old city hall, or the old library, I'm sorry.
We'll certainly engage the city with some discussion about recycling or even demoing. They will get some help on that front.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Washington.
Is there any estimate on how many parking spaces that
Is it on there?
Yeah.
You see there, Chad?
Well, let's see.
They didn't have SUVs then.
Let's see, 17 regular parking spaces and 4 handicap spaces.
Sound reasonable, 20 spots probably. Mr. Legis.
Not that I know anything about bars, but, well, I mean, I'm sure that we'll look into just not demolishing it, look into the fact that there's that bar in there. I'm sure that, is worth some money. I mean, there's a lot of fixtures in there, and I would think that would be worth some money. So I think we'd have some kind of auction or something, not just tear it all down.
I think the agreement will be whatever they want to take out, they can take out, but whatever's left, we have a right to.
Oh,
So I've
okay.
ed the key if you want it. We'll take a look.
No, yeah, well, if there's
Mr.
any...
Legis sounds like he's volunteering to run the
There's-
garage.
We could have, what do they call those hours after work? Happy hours, yeah. Leo does bring up a good point, because I used to manage the building right there by the courthouse, and I can assure you that if you wanted to park around the courthouse, the best time to do it is at noon, because all the employees come out of the courthouse and get their cars that are parked on the street. There's a ton of them, and we got a parking lot on the corner of Harrison and, what is that, Station, that sits vacant that no employees use. I think we should somehow start forcing our employees to use the parking lots we have, so that people that come for jury duty and other business with the courthouse would have a place to park, because those streets just empty out.
Any other comments on the question before us? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Tripp? Aye. Mr. Washington?
Aye.
Mr. Legis?
Aye.
Mr. Stauffenberg?
Aye.
Mr. Witten?
Nay.
Mrs. Bernard?
Aye.
Mr. Vickery?
Aye.
Mrs. Barber?
Aye.
Mrs. Schmidt?
Aye.
Mr. Nicholas?
Nay.
Mr. Lear?
Aye.
Mr. Scholl?
Aye.
Mr. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Colecki?
Aye.
Mrs. McBride?
Aye.
Mr. Yates?
Aye.
Mr. Innes?
Aye.
Mr. Whitus?
Aye.
Mr. Dolan?
Aye.
Mrs. Polk? Mr. Arsenault?
Aye.
Foster. Aye. Motion carries. Secondly, under new business, again, a matter I brought directly to the board, approval of the correction officer's labor contract. We do not have a resolution for you to look at. The history here is this. The labor contract with corrections officers expired November of '06. Negotiations ensued during the course of 2007. An impasse was reached. A binding arbitration was requested by the bargaining unit sometime late in '07, I'm told. The arbitration hearing was conducted June of '08. An award was finally granted and handed down in December of '08. Upon receiving the award from the arbitrator, an error in the language or in the chart of the agreed upon compensation was discovered. And this was created by the arbitrator in writing up the award. The parties involved thought they knew what the arbitrator meant, but nevertheless the document did not reflect accurately what should have been done in that agreement. Consequently, over the course of the last 2 months, the award and the contract has been batted back and forth between legal counsel and the arbitrator. The most recent discussion last week with our state's attorney's office resulted in the arbitrator agreeing to correct her opinion and revise that and submit it back to the county, and subsequent to that, the county and the bargaining unit will redraft the final document and have it ready to sign. What we're asking for you today is to allow me to execute that agreement when it's done and completed, and when the amended award is received by the county. And so we can move forward on getting the back pay and so forth settled with the employees involved. So what we're doing is asking for a motion. Mr. State's Attorney, help me out.
Thank you. Motion would be for authorization of the county board chairman to execute a contract with the corrections officers union upon receipt of the corrected arbitrator's award and upon review of the state's attorney's office.
Do we have a motion to that effect? Mr. Kalecki with a motion, Mr. Witten with a second. We should explain that we can't vote otherwise. The arbitrator has ruled, we have to adopt the arbitrator's award, so there's not much discussion here. So, Mr. Enns, question with the question.
I just have one question. Financially, how is this back pay going to hurt us? I mean, have we been, has the board got much money back for this, or is it going to be just a big hit on our budget?
Well, we've had some discussion about that in Finance Committee. Yes, it's going to be a large sum of money that the finance, that this year's budget will withstand. There has been contingencies held in the last 2 years in anticipation of a settlement, and he did this. Finance Department did the same for the coming year. Fortunately, I think he may have underestimated the size of that settlement, but we don't have final numbers on that, and I don't want to disclose that until we get it done and settled, and then we'll know for sure. By the way, the arbitrator ruled in favor of the county actually on the main finance question. So. Any other questions? Ready for a vote? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Tripp?
Aye.
Mr. Washington?
Aye.
Mr. Lejess? Aye. Mr. Stauffenberg?
Aye.
Mr. Witten?
Aye.
Mrs. Bernard?
Aye.
Mr. Vickery?
Aye.
Mrs. Barber? Ms. Schmidt?
Aye.
Mr. Nicholas?
Aye.
Mr. Lear?
Aye.
Mr. Scholl?
Aye.
Mr. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Kalecki?
Aye.
Mr. Bride?
Aye.
Mr. Yates?
Aye.
Mr. Inns? Aye. Mr. Whitus?
Aye.
Mr. Tholen? Aye. Mrs. Pope? Mr. Arsenault?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. I have no other new business. Anything else for the good of the cause? Mr. Bernard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have one item under new business and a couple of quick items under old business.
I'm sorry, go
Oh,
ahead.
that's okay. Just under new business, I saw that there's been a bill introduced down in Springfield that would expand the SLEP pension plan to the coroner's offices and then I believe to probation. So right now under the SLEP plan, what worries me about it is, as it applies to our sheriff's deputies and deputies across the state, is that they can reach age 50 and work 20 years and be eligible for 80% of their salary as a pension, which is very hard to support. And what I was wondering is if we could have Steve run some numbers for us to see how much it would cost the county if SLEP were to be expanded to the coroner's office and to the probation, so we can get a handle on those numbers.
Probably something we could bring up in finance, maybe, I know, ask for some discussion on that, and maybe even at the executive committee, maybe take a position on that particular legislation. think the answer is going to be, it's going to be hard for us to calculate a cost, because if you bring a new group of employees into SLEP as opposed to the standard IMRF, they'll start all over with a new set of calculations on the part of IMRF. I don't think they'll just adopt the current rate. It'll be, the rate will be readjusted to accommodate a new set of employees. So
Right, well, maybe he can come up with
we
some
can estimate
ballpark
based on the
figures.
current rate perhaps.
Right.
Right.
And then I have a couple of items under old business. Excuse me, I have a couple of items under old business.
Go ahead.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to know, again, what our status is for the delegation agreement.
Delegation agreement, a draft of a grant request was submitted by the end of last month to EPA and was received in a timely manner. So we are waiting on comment from EPA as to whether they're seeking, any modifications to it.
Do we know when we'll have a response or what the deadline is?
We were anticipating fairly quick response, at least on the first step. I suspect they may suggest some modifications, but we have not seen it.
All right, and then just the last thing is, have we ever found out what the status is of the solid waste plan that was given, the state's attorney took it, I think about 2.5, 3 years ago?
Can't answer that. I think we'd have to take that up with another committee.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Comments? We have a motion to audit the per diem and adjourn this meeting. Mr. Legess with a motion, Mr. Tholen with a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you.